Hi, my name is Filip Obradović, and together with Aleksa, Sekešan, and our friend Ognjen, we built a Fintel. Fintel is an application that analyzes incoming calls and call history. We are using Telesign's phone ID along with Fintel's own connection graph to inform the user about the calls it gets. And our main goal is to help users become more secure when they are answering, avoid being scammed and just be a lot less anxious when they see an unknown number. And using the Fintech's connection graph, we can figure out if two phone numbers, two users, have a mutual friend or contact. And in addition to that, Fintel uses phone ID as an essential part from verification that we do at registration. And also every time that we request the data using our own connection graph, we will check if something changed on the phone ID graph. For example, if some unexpected SIM swap happened or if somehow the number got transferred, we're gonna also want to notify the user about it. As a quick sort of use case about the common friend, for example, just a month ago I was doing my driver's exam, and the whole period that I was doing the classes, my father was the one who was appointing my classes. And then when it was the time for me to get the date that I would be doing the exam, they called me instead of him, and I saw the unknown number and I don't answer those, and then I just ignored them, and now I'm still waiting for a free slot. So it's one of the use cases. Now I would like to show a demo. So the demo is a simple demo. So here is just simple registration page. We take the first name, last name, Gmail, and phone number, and we verify this. We of course have to give the permission to take some of the data that's necessary. I'm going to show the demo. We check some of those parameters like the last name primary with the Telesign contact add-on. So because we have a much higher priority for the surname than for the first name, because parents sometimes are the ones that are written in those records. And now I would like to show the demo. So now I'm gonna emulate a phone call. This is just a emulator of the device. So now I'm gonna call the device, and now I see here the name, and I see that this is a high-risk number. So I would just like to show how did we get to this state. So here we have the graph. In the middle is me. Around me is Ognjen, Pavle, and Aleksa, my friends. And so I got called from someone who is not in the graph, so complete unknown. And then we see, okay, he's not in our graph, and then we fall back to the phone ID, Telesign phone ID, and then we check the parameters such as SIM swap and the other sort of security-related parameters that we can get, and then we calculate if it's a high risk. In this case, it was high risk, so we labeled him as such. And now for the second example. Another call, and now here we see that Milić is calling me, and we see here the message that he's a friend of Ognjen, and we see the thumbs up, so it's safe to answer. And the way that we figure that one out is more using our own graph. So again, Milić tries to contact us. We traverse the graph, check if we have some mutual connections. We found the Ognjen, obviously, and then we say, okay, this number is probably low risk. We still run it through the Telesign phone ID, just to check maybe something happened between when he added the contact and the present, and then we return the response. Now here, since we also have some information, just a history about your call, so how much time you called whom. So for example, we have just a beautiful graph, so our friend Ognjen speaks a lot with Sekešan, and of course when you click on some of these sections, we have it in a video because those are actual real data that we picked up from Ognjen's phone. when you pick one of the numbers, then we can see here some other stats, like number of calls per week for the last 60 days, for example. We just we added in our app. Now, as you saw here, when I get a call, this is one of the major technical innovations we had to do, this injection. Although it looks very simple, Android and iOS, they don't have any kernel level API to eject that kind of information. And so we had to really think outside the box, because we had to find some other APIs, kernel APIs, that we can figure out when the call gets recognized from the phone, and then we interpret the phone call. So before this call screen pops up, we want to know that the call happened, and then we try and inject the information, and only then the phone call actually happens. Of course, there's no API, so we had to do a bunch of crazy stuff to get that working. But however, that is one of the huge advantages of our app, because that means that our app can work, it can work on iOS and on Android, which is important, but also it can work with any communication app. So, for example, WhatsApp. Someone if calls us from WhatsApp, so not the classic cellular call, but over the internet, we can still check the number, because they all use the contacts app. And one of the APIs that we use is with the contacts. And then we can make it work even with WhatsApp, with Viber, with Telegram, Signal, really any app that you can come up with. Now that is important, because here we found some of they're not competitors, but they're trying to be in the same area. So first it's us, then second one is the iOS 17, a new feature called Contact Poster. And that is on the second picture here is this guy. So you can add your own picture, and you can add custom font and color. And when you get called from an iOS device, but you also have to have an iOS device, it will show you the picture of him. Of course, for example, now disadvantage related to our app is, of course, Apple is trying to build their own ecosystem, so they're never going to add it to Android. Same with iMessage. However, for example, they also have ability to be app agnostic, so to work across the apps. So WhatsApp, as I mentioned before. Now the true caller is the Android app. This is their icon. The way that they work is a lot dumber than we do, because on Android you can set the default calling app. So this is on iPhone, the default calling app. For example, on Android you can change it, go to the settings and change everywhere. And that's how they work. However, the problem with that is that they don't work with all apps, so they're not app agnostic, because for them to work, it has to be the regular cell call and to come through their app, because they basically become the default app for calling. Now that is a big problem from them, because on the iOS, Apple is more restrictive about it. As I said, this is their own call app, and they're never going to allow you to change the default one. So they can never work like that on the iPhone. Whereas we could, because the way that we do it, we would inject it in here, so in the contact when you get called. We don't care like what app you use, we just care that you get a call and we can work. Yeah, so that's about it. Do you have any questions?
Do you maybe want to start, or should I?
I have one question. So who will be the consumer of this application? Is it related to the end users, non-business users, owners of the phone numbers, or?
Yes, the goal is for everyone. So the goal is with this, forgot to mention that part, we're almost trying to make in a way like a social media from the regular phone calls. So we are also Apple here going to allow to customize your profile picture, font, everything. And so our goal is to just everyone who who wants to know who is calling them. They want to be safe. For example, I get a lot of mails from my bank and UniCredit to be aware of the phishing attacks. And if I would probably install this app just to be sure. And as I said, on my personal example, I would now have a driving license if I use the app. They don't anymore. So it's a use case. It could be you, it could be my grandma, it could be really anyone, not just the business.
and which phone ID add-ons would be available in this application? I'm just thinking because some of the add-ons require explicit consent from the end user, so it's not so easy to gather the name, surname, address, or something like that related to the particular phone number.
So we don't ask about the address. It'll be too much. We ask about the first name, last name, email, and phone number, and we prioritize, of course, the last name. Then we prioritize, of course, the phone number. Is the phone number safe? That's the first priority. But then we mostly look at the surname, and then if we can get an email or something like that, then we would in the first name. First name we don't really care about because, my phone number is on Bogdan Obradović and I'm Filip Obradović. I would never be able to verify in this app if we cared about the first name. That's in my file.
Okay, just to recap. So can you go to the slide with the graph, the first one? Can you go back to the slide with the graph?
The first one or the second?
The first one. Okay. So basically, the idea is, in theory, if your friends also have the app,
yeah,
the more of your friends, your contacts, install the app, the better the reach and the higher the chance that you will be able to validate, right? And at which point do you actually do the validation with phone ID? At the point of the call, or is it like you do it?
So you think in this graph when do we do it?
Yes.
So the first step is we check if it is actually in the diagram.
Okay.
So it's like 2 steps from it. Now if we see that it is in the diagram, then we're gonna call the what is the endpoint? For example, for SIM-swap.
Okay.
Yeah. To check just if maybe someone in the meantime took his SIM away.
Okay.
However, for example, if we don't find him, like in this case, we didn't find him, then we're gonna try and hit as much as add-ons on phone ID as possible to get the best picture that we can about this unknown caller.
Okay, but let's say it's really nice to have it in there, but what problem are you actually solving by calling all of these add-ons?
By calling?
Yeah, like you're trying to get whatever you can from them, but what are you trying to actually understand? What would you expect to get from those phone ID calls?
From that, well, primarily for the unknown callers.
Okay.
We would care mostly about are they labeled as spam or as scams or something like that. But we also care about SIM swaps. We would really like to, for example, see the address because it's very unusual to call. It's not that common, for example, for me to get a call from India or from Australia even.
Okay.
Or we did talk with the mentors. They told us that that information is not always available.
Okay.
So we can't always use that. As I said, we try to get as much as we can because we just try to present the user with the most accurate data that we can.
Okay. And by doing there's a lot of things you can actually validate. I'm just trying to understand if there was something specific, like some specific problem you wanted to solve, or like leave it to the maybe for version 2 to think about what specific use cases you wanna address with it.
But we have. When I think about it, I have a lot of future plans, and they're maybe too big to think about. But for example, also for example, if this really becomes big that everyone uses it, then it would be, for example, beneficial for a company that has a call center to verify all their numbers, and then for us to, when they get a call, for them to display that they are checkmarked, so verified. So then, even for example, with the phishing attacks, if they send you a website that looks like it should be of the bank, but for example, one letter of the link is different, and you don't see it, but you try to call the number, we're immediately gonna tell you like it's not verified. So to signal. So that's one of the future plans that we want.
Okay.
We want for this to serve as some sort of authentication on the phone numbers.
And if there is a match on the second slide, when there is a match with one of your friends, what did you do to say it's low risk?
In this case, we just implemented the SIM swap.
Okay.